Hello everybody, you're welcome back again to the Reggae Appreciation Society. Within the worldwide reggae fraternity, there are three classic nuggets of Jamaican films that I like to refer to as the trinity of yard cinema, movies that embody the very essence of the golden era of reggae music, all thanks to their raw exposition of Jamaican culture, the sights, as well as their pulsating soundtracks that can stand toe-to-toe for the best reggae albums ever recorded. These movies are The Harder They Come from 1972, Rockers from 1978, and Countryman from 1982. In my humble opinion, the best movies to emerge from that incredible island. The first two are undoubtedly the best known works, but Countryman to me is arguably the most ambitious. While Harder They Come and Rockers were musically centered, gritty street stories, Countryman is essentially an action-adventure flick which deals with themes like politics, mysticism, and what would happen in the event of an epic clash between a natty dread Rasta Superman and the forces of Babylon. Unlike the others, which had popular musicians and entertainment icons to boost its popularity and visibility, Countryman's lead actor and star was a real-life version of the movie's character, a simple Rasta man living an idyllic life in the most natural of settings. But despite the seeming lack of star power and the low budget, the movie has over the past 4 decades since its release become an absolute cult classic with fans of the reggae genre. I first came across that movie as a teenager at a barbering salon owned by this Rasta dude. He would play it on his VHS to keep customers busy while waiting for their haircuts, and I remember my young reggae-loving self captivated by the parts that I was able to watch before it was my turn to get a haircut. It would take 10 years before I finally watched the whole thing, and I would appreciate it even more after I discovered that the movie was actually inspired by concepts created by Bob Marley himself and directed by his ex-manager Dickie Jobson, and released as a tribute to the Tough Gong by the filmmaking arm of Island Records itself. So now let's take a look at Countryman, Island Pictures' unforgettable cult classic. To begin with, the movie was the brainchild of Chris Blackwell, the founder of Island Records. By the 1980s, he had conquered the world with his record label and got the idea to do great things with films. For this purpose, he would register a subsidiary called Island Pictures in 1980. It may have seemed like a strange decision at the time, but Blackwell actually had a history in filmmaking, as he had worked as a production assistant on the first James Bond movie, Dr. No, that was filmed in Jamaica around 1960. After Bob Marley passed away in 1981, Blackwell was moved to launch his new film company by doing a movie inspired by the concepts, stories, and lyrics espoused by the Tough Gong during his lifetime. Bob, as a devout Rastafarian, had a strong belief that the average natty dread was unbeatable in his natural settings and would always defeat Babylon in a fair fight every time. And Blackwell also had a great love for Rastafarians, as he had almost drowned in the late 1950s one day while out on his boat and had been saved by some Rasta fishermen. To bring this idea to life, he brainstormed with his right-hand man at Island Records, Dickie Jobson. Jobson had been for a short while Bob Marley's manager and was very conversant with his ideas and concepts, so Blackwell appointed him as a director for the movie. He put together the story about a Rasta Superman type, and Blackwell jumped at the idea. As the film's producer, Blackwell already knew who would be perfect for the role. His automatic choice for the main character was a mysterious and visually striking Rasta fisherman who wasn't only incredibly photogenic and a physical specimen, but looked exactly like the character in the story. This person had a mysterious background. In those times, very little was known about his past, but all everybody knew was that at the age of 6, he ran away from home and began to live in the bushes, eventually making a living as a fisherman at the Hellshire Beach near Portmore. He had come to Blackwell's attention after appearing on the cover of Rolling Stones magazine in 1973 and had been picked for a role by Perry Hensel, the maker of The Harder They Come, for a movie that never took off eventually. No one knew his real name, but he called himself Countryman, and the movie would be named after him. Now the film tells the story about a Rastafarian fisherman living the natty dread dream life in a beautiful, serene fishing village. He is perfectly at one with his environment and nature, and life couldn't get any better until one morning his peaceful existence is rudely disrupted when he watches a plane crash into a swamp in the distance. And he rushes to the accident site where he finds and rescues a young American couple just in the nick of time as they're about to be devoured by the numerous crocodiles in the swamp. Countryman puts the couple in his canoe and quickly spirits them away to the safety of his secret cave before the authorities can find the wreckage. The young American man named Bobby played by Hiram Keller, is badly injured, and his girlfriend named Bo, played by actress Christine St. Clair, is in total shock at what just happened to them. And the young couple soon begin to discover that Countryman is heavily endowed with spiritual powers and can see that the pair are in serious danger from the authorities, though at the time it's not clear why. The police and the army find the wreckage of the plane and organize a massive manhunt to find the survivors. Apparently the year is 1980 and an election year, and the government is very eager to whip up public hysteria as a tool to boost their re-election chances. So the government fabricates a crazy story that the crash survivors are CIA agents recruited by the opposition party to destabilize the country before the elections. But in reality, the plane belonged to Bo's father. Against her dad's advice and wishes, she would take the plane for a spin with her boyfriend, and it ends up in chaos when they crash land in a Jamaican swamp, barely making it out with their lives. Countryman successfully hides them and nurses Bobby back to good health as he introduces them to Ital food goodness, feeding them with sumptuous fish, coconuts, fruits, and of course, the finest herb in the land, all gotten free of charge from his environment, all wonderfully provided by Jar. The army task force charged with capturing the couple is headed by a dreaded soldier named Colonel Sinclair, who begins to realize that the Americans must be enjoying local support. So the authorities organize a brutal manhunt and raid Countryman's peaceful paradise of a fishing village to find the collaborators. As the dragnet tightens, our hero must rely on his mystical powers, incredible combat skills, and unmatched knowledge of his terrain, but to not only keep his new friends safe, but to stay alive as he becomes the main suspect, hunted by the army, as well as local spies and informants planted to follow his every move. Personally, I love the movie, but to be brutally honest, it's not the best film ever made, with critics rating it as your average 1980s B-movie. But it was, in my opinion, a very enjoyable watch and an absolute must-see for reggae lovers everywhere. While the harder they come and rockers feature gritty yet dazzling urban landscapes, Countryman offers a huge slice of stunning Jamaican rural visuals and soothing expositions of seaside village culture. And don't even get me started about the magnificent soundtrack. Being inspired by Bob Marley, it features some of the Top Gong's masterpieces like Natural Mystic, Rastaman Chant, and Rat Race, as well as certified scorchers from the likes of Steel Pulse, Aswad, Lee Scratch Perry, and Dennis Brown. And when I watched it, I often found myself rewinding certain scenes to enjoy the music and the way they blended perfectly with the action scenes. I thoroughly enjoyed this flick with the millions of reggae fans all over the globe. This movie was a modest debut from Island Pictures in terms of acting, film quality, and plot. To be fair, it was Dickie Jobson's first attempt at being a director, and I sort of wish the company had done more movies like this one. I believe it's the only movie of its kind ever made, an all-out Rasta action flick complete with all the nuances associated with that culture. It introduced the world to Countryman, whose lifestyle remained unchanged after the movie. Countryman and Chris Blackwell flew to France in 1983 to attend a screening of the movie at the popular Cannes Film Festival, and Countryman showed up there dressed in his trademark swimming trunks. He stayed true to his roots, but the world eventually found out more about his origins. He'd been born in Kingston to Agnes Thompson and George Lawton, and his real name was Edwin Lawton. He lost his mother at the age of 3, and after suffering neglect by his father, the boy ran away from home and found his way to Hellshire Beach, where he attached himself to local fishermen and got the name Country Boy, and he would live just like the character in the movie for his whole life. Sadly, Edwin Lawton, aka Countryman, passed away from cancer in September 2016 at the age of 70, leaving behind a wife and 2 children. Countryman is one unforgettable movie that's since become a cult classic that reggae fans love to watch over and over. A dazzling tribute to Bob Marley and one amazing celebration of Rasta culture and the likes we may never see again. So there you have it. Thank you for watching the video today. Please leave a like, subscribe, and until next time, Jah bless.